is Anusha here? I don't know. She sent out a message saying...
I got it.
Whatever.
I got it.
The message that said, please look at this website of the Blue Team. Did anyone try to open that website?
Yeah.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Oh, it worked. For me, it didn't work at the time.
Krishna spirit.
Yeah. Well, anyway. I want to thank the organizers for inviting me to be part of this discussion. I'm not so sure if I'm the right person to be here, but here I am. And I've put together some thoughts which, if nothing else, I thought they can be a kind of purva paksha, something to argue against. But I hope this will be one way of looking at what we're doing. You'll see in a couple of minutes I have a little chart here of classifications. And indeed, this is my title. I'm giving this a fancy title: Understanding Srila Prabhupada's Purpose in Classifying the Universe.
Can I interrupt? Do you want to tell people where classifying the universe comes from?
You mean the term?
The book title is called Classifying the Universe. You're going to come to that? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, there is a book that came out, 15 years ago by Professor Brian K. Smith. He called it Classifying the Universe, and it had a subtitle which I don't remember. I forgot to. So, I want to start by making a distinction between generalization and universals, and I think this kind of gets back to A.K. Ramanujan's point about context-specific and context invariance. But I think we want to keep this in mind. We see Srila Prabhupada using quite a number of terms of classification, and that's what I'm going to elaborate in this chart. And I think a broader point to all of this is that there is a difference between generalization and universals. But I would add a point to what Ramanujan is saying, and that is that Srila Prabhupada is also speaking about universals, but he's speaking on a higher level of universality, we might say, namely that of the eternal identity of the spirit soul. And I think it helps us to understand what Srila Prabhupada's teaching is about, to keep in mind the notion of adhikar. And this comes from Wilhelm Hauptfass, who wrote so many years ago an essay on this topic, how, especially in what we call Brahminical culture, there's a very great emphasis on the notion of adhikar, qualification or right or authorization or authority. And I think we see this a lot in Srila Prabhupada's speaking, and it's often to make the point that this person is not qualified. This person does not have adhikar. The professor of Hinduism, who doesn't know what Hinduism is, obviously does not have the appropriate adhikar for his activity. And I would make this point that, in a sense, Srila Prabhupada's overall preaching aim is to declassify, and then to, well, we can say to reclassify everyone, or bring them beyond classification to the essential, the real identity, which is that of the eternal servant of Krishna. The problem, why we're discussing this today, is that people's perception and people have perception and resentment about the initial classifications, what I'm calling Purva Paksha, in a sense, as you'll see in a minute. When they see these, and they don't see the bigger picture that Srila Prabhupada is talking about, when they don't see the bigger story that Srila Prabhupada is telling, then this is where the problem comes in. So I think that understanding this broader perspective of how Srila Prabhupada is classifying will help us in communication, and particularly a communication with an ethos of dialogue. All right, here we go with my chart. I kind of like charts. Forgive me if you don't like charts. All that I've done in this could certainly be fine-tuned, expanded, adjusted, perhaps in major ways, perhaps minor ways. So I've created 3 columns here, what I'm calling the negatively valenced or conditioned existence column. Valenced means marked or having, how would you define valence?
Having a value.
Having a value, yeah, so negatively valued. And then on the right is positively valenced or valued, spiritually progressive, and in the middle, transitional, ambiguously or neutrally or favorably situated. Can be sort of going in one direction or the other. And I've somewhat arbitrarily, in terms of order and also inclusion, have a whole bunch of stuff here. I'll just do this very quickly. You'll see where I'm going, and we can go through these a little quickly. First, Srila Prabhupada gets on the case of bogus gurus, right? But what is the context of talking about bogus gurus? He wants us to understand there's the opposite of that, the Vaishnava gurus, the Vaishnava acharyas. In between these are the followers of bogus gurus, or I've thrown in also the other sampradayas as a whole. And then we have shastric categories, and by the way, I've called this whole thing Prabhupada's classificatory scheme. You may say, well, Prabhupada is taking from Shastra. Well, yes, but the point is, he is deciding which Shastra, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and so on. And it is Srila Prabhupada who is doing this presenting, who is pointing out these categories. So we're all familiar with Bhagavad Gita. We have the Dushkritinas and the Sukritinas. And there are 4 types of each of these. The Dushkritinas, the impious persons, Mudha, Naradama, and by the way, I think the purport, Srila Prabhupada's purport to this verse, 7:15 or 14 or 15, is one of his longest purports in Bhagavad Gita. He really wants us to understand that there are a lot of these Buddhas and Naradamas and Maya Aparita Jnanas and Asuras around. And then we have on the other side the Arta Jigyasu, Arta Arti, and Jnanas. And obviously they're Sukritina, they're pious persons. And I put into the same box the Mahatma, the Sadhu, and the Bhakta, and the Bhagavata or Mahabhagavata, which of course there are subcategories given in Bhagavatam. And then we have such term as Sadhana Siddha, and one might elaborate there as well. In between, Prabhupada speaks of the karmis, the jnanis, and the yogis. When I first came to the temple, I think it was the second day I was there, one bhakta was preaching to me, and he was telling me all about the kamis, the kamis, the kamis, the kamis. This was in German. And I thought, wow, so this Hare Krishna, they're really against communists.
We are.
Okay, then we have the two sorts of varnashrama, varnashrama based on birth, janma, and then I've included, Prabhupada would sometimes refer to the Brahma Bandhus. The term Durjana comes up. And also I put in here, because this would have to do with ashrama, Grihameni, and then more broadly, the tendency of the conditioned soul, thinking how many times Prabhupada would use this example: I am American, I am Hindu, I am Russian, etc. So this sort of thinking, this sort of mentality. Well, I think you get the idea, so maybe I don't have to, as we say, spin it out too much. Well, but indeed, now we come to what I've marked in yellow. It came to me that it might make sense that we have two categories here. Women as embodiment of Maya Shakti, and I think these could be put in the same category as, for Prabhupada, less intelligent persons, might have a separate box, whatever. And then in this sort of transitional or ambiguous area, I've put women referred to as less intelligent and therefore needing protection. So why needing protection? It seems to me he connects this sense of less intelligent much of the time, not all the time, but much of the time. And then, as we heard, we have on the positive side Vaishnava women who Prabhupada, I believe, referred to as most intelligent. Well, then we have, within broader Indian Brahminical traditions, the designation Lecha, Yavana, and included in that, I would say, the term Prabhupada would use Africans or blacks, and tribals, and uncivilized, and perhaps we could add Varna Sankara, and Prabhupada's expression there, acting like dogs and cats. And I'm suggesting we include here also gay, lesbian, etc. I don't even remember what B and T stand for, but this is kind of the standard term nowadays for being inclusive. And Prabhupada's expression, worshipping dog. So all of these kind of, in a sense, expressing in a similar way. And on the positive side, Srila Prabhupada would speak of these devotee boys and girls from America and Europe. Usually it was America and Europe, Europe and America. And the impression I have from the way he would speak of them, he would often refer to them when in India, pointing to his American disciples, is he was saying, in effect, they are no longer Lecha, Yavana, etc., etc. Now they are devotees. So he's emphasizing that point. And then you have the rascals, the atheists, the Mayavadis, the impersonalists, and so on. And interestingly, I would put Shankaracharya in the middle ground because Prabhupada would say he is not at fault. And then on the right, the positive, you have devotee, pure devotee, personalists, bona fide religious leaders, and of course Prabhupada would refer to Lord Jesus Christ. I think he would go into this category. And then we have, Prabhupada usually didn't use the word Nastikas, to my knowledge, the Buddhists, the Jains, classical materialists, all together with mental speculators. In the middle, there would be supportive and appreciative learned people, scholars, scientists, musicians, business people, and so on. And then on the right, there were devotees, scholars, scientists, and so on. Finally, to make all of this quasi-complete, I thought to also include animals. And then we have Srila Prabhupada speaking untiringly about the human form of life as opportunity to become perfected. And then on the right, we have liberated stories of liberated animals, and very importantly, cows. All right, what to make of all this? I think this is a means of understanding our conditioned. Prabhupada is speaking about these as a means of understanding our conditioned predicament in this world. He is using these designations as a kind of starting point from which Srila Prabhupada is inviting and expecting individuals to rise up to the challenge of spiritual life and in that way become reclassified, so to say, through purification. This functions as a kind of mapping process so that it is all-encompassing. Everyone is somewhere on the map. And therefore, it's actually inclusive because everyone has the opportunity, every living entity has the opportunity to reach perfection. Okay. So again, behind all this classification, it seems to me, is very much the idea of adhikara. And one example of this, I think, is in the comments Srila Prabhupada would say about the moon landing, as he would watch in 1969, as supposedly there was a moon landing happening in real time. Prabhupada would say different things, and his sort of final comment was, even if they went to the moon, they could not stay there. So what is behind that statement? It's the point about adhikara. They do not have the qualification to go to the moon. And then when Srila Prabhupada is speaking about leaders, it's about qualification and so on. So related to this idea of adhikara then, the pure Vaishnava is understood to be beyond all qualification and seeing everyone beyond or classification and seeing everyone beyond classification. And then again and again and again and again, Srila Prabhupada is saying, by the association of a pure devotee, everyone can become uplifted. Of course, here is referring to the Bhagavatam verse, Kirata Manandra Kulinda Pulkasha, and so on, from second canto. So, everyone can potentially become to the highest level of adhikara, which is pure devotee, and indeed to become guru. Well, that's a bit controversial, even within our society. Negative classifications are often lokika, which means of this world, as opposed to alokika. They're determined by local cultural perceptions, and I think it's a subject for discussion. To what extent do we consider Srila Prabhupada in his context of when he grew up, where he grew up? Some conclusions. To understand the overall shape of Prabhupada's classificatory scheme, and most importantly, its purpose behind it, is an essential beginning to dealing with his controversial statements. So, Alfred North Whitehead spoke of the fallacy of misplaced concreteness, which is otherwise known as the reification fallacy. I think arguably when people see red, when they see a statement spoken by Srila Prabhupada and they see this as problematic, what's really happening is they're missing the point, and as such they are participating in, or they are understanding through a fallacy of reasoning, and that's the fallacy of misplaced concreteness. And then history. I think all of this points to the need for some careful historical study of Srila Prabhupada's life and teachings, to see progression of how Srila Prabhupada spoke on these different points, and this brings in, of course, the subject of context. All of this, I think, calls attention to the need for an ongoing perpetuation of the commentarial tradition, of which, like it or not, we are a part of it.
Commenting on the comments.
Commenting on the comments. It's not to be found in the database, but Bhakti Vaibhava Swami says that Srila Prabhupada said that one day devotees will write commentaries on my commentaries. Well, we're already doing that. Actually, we're doing that every day when we give a Bhagavatam class.
But I was once with Prabhupada talking to a Columbia graduate student. He said, you see all these books? You read those books, and then you write books about these books.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. So this calls attention to this website, Tough Ones, DVT Tough Ones, which I think is a start of the idea. I was commissioned to write one of these articles. I think there are 7 altogether, and it seems to have fizzled out after that. Maybe it needs some reworking or whatever. And then all of this, in the end, I think, should lead toward creating space for dialogue, where what we want to do with the public is not only that they listen to us, but we allow ourselves to listen to them, to listen to their concerns, and then to actually respond to their concerns, not to speak past them, but to speak with them. So, I think that's about it.
So, other than say a few words, difficult acts to follow. These thoughtful and insightful presentations, so thank you very much. Thank you very much for nothing, because it's a difficult act to follow. So thank you very much for that. I suppose where we could start with is our Srila Prabhupada's comments, all absolute truth. Does every word he say reflect the absolute truth? And that's a difficulty we've had over the years in ISKCON. Mukunda Goswami was very upset when Prabhupada's conversations were published. He thought Prabhupada really would not like his conversations to be published. He was quite convinced of that. Yet the publishers thought that all of Prabhupada's words are the truth, so therefore everything has to be published. And there's two very, very different opinions. You would look at Mukunda Goswami as one of the very first devotees in ISKCON, someone who you would consider had a finger on the pulse to some degree. And then other devotees with a completely different opinion. So that's hermeneutics in action. They're people interpreting the same person, but from very different perspectives, coming to radically different conclusions. And it's interesting that at the time that was an open question, but it's because of those publications that we're having this conversation today. I think one of the reasons why there are two articles in a book called The Hare Krishna Movement by Brian Tedesco, and that's what opened up this issue, where one of the scholars consciously looked